Chapter 2, Starting a Real Estate Office. Business entities that can register to broker real estate. To begin with, there's the sole proprietorship. That's an individual that goes into business for his or herself to practice real estate. All that's required is a real estate license. The general partnership, however, is a lot different in a lot of ways. To begin with, it's made up of two or more individuals that go into business for themselves, typically to make money. It is unique in that it's the only multiple-owned business entity that does not have to be in writing. It can actually be a verbal agreement. The general partnership itself, at least one of the partners has to be an active real estate broker. The others don't have to be, and I think the real caveat to this entire thing is that sales associates or broker associates can never be a general partner of a real estate general partnership. An ostensible partnership is one out of circumstance and not choice. And let me give you an example of that. When I first opened my office, I put my sign up the way that I was supposed to. A guy moved in next door to me who was also a broker and decided not to put a sign up, but he transacted business. The public may very well have perceived that he and I were in partnership because I had a sign, he didn't. They might have thought we were together. That creates that ostensible partnership. He and I had a nice chat. Shortly thereafter, he put his sign up. Limited partnerships are made up of one or more general partners and one or more limited partners. The general partners, at least one has to be an active real estate broker. The limited partners, there's no license requirement. Sales associates and broker associates cannot be general partners. However, a sales associate and a broker associate both can be limited partners. In fact, there's no license requirement. The corporation is made up of stockholders. Anybody can own stock in a real estate brokerage corporation. Stockholders elect and appoint the board of directors and the officers. Sales associates and broker associates cannot be officers or directors of a real estate brokerage corporation. They can, however, own stock. In fact, a sales associate or broker associate can own all the stock in a corporation. I've got two very good friends of mine that own corporations. They're sales associates. They own all the stock, but they had to hire somebody to act as the broker, as the officers, and the directors. A domestic corporation is a corporation that is domiciled in the state of Florida. A foreign corporation is simply a corporation that's domiciled outside of the state of Florida. And if a foreign corporation wants to do business in Florida, they simply need to register that foreign corporation with the Department of State. The business entities that cannot broker real estate in Florida or that are not authorized to broker real estate, the corporation sole, which is a church. Now, a church can buy and sell all the real estate they want. They simply can't broker for others. A joint venture is simply people that get together to do a single task. You don't need a real estate license for that to begin with. A business trust, a cooperative association, and an unincorporated association are the other entities that are not authorized to broker real estate. Trade names and fictitious names. Remember that only a broker can operate under a trade or fictitious name. Sales associates and broker associates are prohibited from operating in that manner. Now, a sales associate and broker associate can form a PC, an LLC, or a PLLC to operate under, but they can't be doing business under a fictitious name. Regarding office requirements, the principal office is the one. Remember that all brokers have to have an office somewhere. It doesn't have to be in the state of Florida, and it has to be registered with a division of real estate. Any subsequent office is considered to be a branch office. Now, the principal office, if they move the principal office, you have to notify the division of real estate within 10 days. Otherwise, that license and all license under it will cease to be enforced. Branch offices, however, are not transferable. The registrations themselves, if you move a branch office, you simply get a new registration. I want to make sure that we don't confuse branch offices with temporary shelters. A branch office is simply a place where the public perceives it to be an office. where negotiations take place and records are kept. In fact, if you want to define what a broker's office is, it's at least one enclosed room of stationary construction where negotiations take place and records are kept. A branch office will be identically the same thing. A temporary shelter is a place where individual licensee may get out of the weather, where the main focus is not real estate, where other things are being done. I'll give you an example. A construction trailer where other activities take place and a sales associate simply works out of it, that's considered a temporary shelter and doesn't have to be registered. It's like setting an open house where you're at someone else's house and you're sitting one Saturday afternoon. That doesn't have to be registered with the Division of Real Estate either. If it's a model home where agents go to every day for a development, where negotiations take place and records are kept and it's set up like an office, that's going to be considered a branch office and will have to be registered. Every broker has to have an official sign on or about the entrance of not only his main office, but also any subsequent branch offices. That information that has to be on there, it has to have the name of the brokerage entity that they're doing business in. It has to have the name of one or more of the brokers that are registered with the division. And it has to have the words licensed real estate broker. Now, the word license could be abbreviated, as could incorporated. But these things have to be spelled out so that the general public knows that they're dealing with real estate and real estate brokers. Advertising is a service of real estate. And just remember that anybody in an office can advertise. Secretaries, unlicensed assistants can advertise. But also remember that ultimately the responsibility of any advertising has to be that of the broker. And if there's any false or misleading advertisement that comes up, that trail is going to follow back to that broker. The minimum requirement for any advertisement is the name of the brokerage entity. Failure to have the name of the brokerage entity on any media, print media advertisement is considered to be a blind advertisement and is illegal. Point of contact information is now internet advertising, and it's going to require more information. It's going to require the name of the brokerage entity, the address, the email address, and a phone number. The federal and state do not call list also play an important role. And I think that it's important to note that there's going to be some fines if you happen to call somebody that's on these lists. We have both the national registry and also the state registry. Fines can be up to $11,000. The thing about the federal do not call list, as long as you've done business with that individual within the last 90 days, they don't get the privilege of the do not call list. But it can't be just a telephone call. It's got to be real business. As far as the Florida do not call list, as long as you've done business with them over the last 18 months, they don't get that privilege. Also, one important feature about these do not call lists, a lot of us, as part of the practice of real estate, we pick up the telephone and do cold calling. We call for sale by owners. I want you to remember that the Florida statute governing do not call says that anybody who has put their telephone number out for somebody else to call them no longer gets that exemption, that no longer qualifies for the do not call list. So as long as they're on the state only do not call list, it's okay to call them if they're a for sale by owner. If they're on that national registry, don't call them. They still have that privilege of an exemption for the do not call. Rental information and selling rental information list, that's an important concept. A lot of brokers throughout the state of Florida have the ability to collect data. They collect rentals throughout the community, cut a deal with the owner, and then turn around and sell rental lists to individuals, to potential tenants. Well, the rule on this is simple, that brokers have to enter into a contract when they sell these rental lists. If the rental lists are accurate and that individual simply chooses not to rent, the broker has to be prepared to pay back 75% of what was collected. If the rental information list was inaccurate materially, that broker has to be prepared to pay back 100% of what was collected for that rental list. Now, The catch to that also is that that person, the potential tenant, has to make a claim on that deposit within 30 days of buying that list. This is one of the very few first-degree misdemeanors. Failing to have money to give back to potential renters could carry a penalty of up to a $1,000 fine and or up to 1 year in a county jail. And that takes care of Chapter 2. What I'd like to do now is to give you a quick summary of the important information on that chapter. Sole proprietors, general partnerships, limited partnerships, and corporations can broker real estate. General partnerships do not have to be in writing. Associates cannot be general partners or officers or directors. Brokers are responsible for all advertising. The Florida Real Estate Commission cannot discipline unlicensed persons for false and misleading advertisement. The minimum requirement for any ad is the name of the brokerage entity. Otherwise, this is known as a blind advertisement. Internet point of contact requires the brokerage, address, email, and phone number. A temporary shelter does not have to be registered with the Division of Real Estate. Branch offices are not transferable. Violation of rental list is a first-degree misdemeanor which could carry a penalty of up to a $1,000 fine and or up to 1 year in jail. And that's the end of our Chapter 2 summary.